Welcome to Striking Perspectives. Today we bring you Raghu Kalé's reflections, inspired by his conversation with his journalist friend and colleague. Ajay Kumar, a die-hard journalist in both mind and heart, Ajay, urged Raghu to respond to Arthur Herman's Wall Street Journal opinion piece titled, "Trump and Musk Share the Founder's Mindset." What follows here are Raghu's reflections in his article titled, "Disruption, Entropy, and the Journey That Defines the USA." Rather than offering conclusions, Raghu has attempted a reframing, a lens through which to view disruption, the hidden decay within systems, and the evolving nature of the American experiment. Along the way, Raghu introduces a conceptual thought exercise, an imaginary metric called the Influence Magnitude Quotient, IMQ, intended not to conclude, but to provoke reflection. We hope this piece resonates with those drawn to ideas that dwell at the intersection of structure, purpose, and deeper meaning.
Striking Perspectives, unraveling nuances and insights in conversation with Raghu Kalé.
From here on, let me pick up the written words of Raghu Kalé from his article and read his rendition in first person. 1. Summary of the Wall Street Journal article. The Wall Street Journal article draws a compelling parallel between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, presenting both as embodiments of the founder's mindset. This mindset, commonly found in entrepreneurs, is marked by urgency, impatience with bureaucracy, and a bias for decisive action. According to the article, both leaders view America's federal institutions as bloated and resistant to meaningful reform, requiring a disruptive approach rather than incremental change. A central concept explored is the idea of a Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, an imagined body that could surgically audit and streamline federal agencies. This proposal reflects a deeper philosophy that governance should mirror the lean, fast-moving methods of startups, where traditional procedures are seen not as safeguards, but as obstacles to progress. However, the article acknowledges the discomfort this mindset provokes, even within sympathetic political camps. The MAGA base, already fueled by populist fervor, appears wary of technocratic overreach. Despite these frictions, the article argues that leadership of this kind may be essential to challenge institutional stagnation and inertia. In sum, the article makes a provocative case. In an age of systemic dysfunction, founder-style disruption may be more cure than curse. Section 2. My observations. I do not reject the call for disruption. Instead, I offer a reframing, one that looks beyond the tactical utility of disruption and seeks to understand its deeper moral and existential role. Disruption, in my view, is not about novelty or aggression. It is about truth-telling at scale. It is the moment when a system, having exhausted the pretense of reform, must be forced into a new trajectory. Across civilizations, real transformation has rarely emerged from within equilibrium. Progress has come from rupture, from moments of war, collapse, reawakening, or radically divergent leadership. These moments are not pleasant, but they are often necessary. This is where I bring in the concept of entropy, not in the scientific sense alone, but in its symbolic power. Entropy is not just disorder, it is concealed decay. It is the quiet normalization of waste, inefficiency, and moral compromise. It thrives behind closed doors, in unchecked layers of process, in rituals that pretend to serve, but quietly dilute purpose. And most dangerously, it hides within what we call efficiency. This idea is not without precedent. Political theorist Randall Schweller, 2010, has used entropy to describe the unraveling coherence in world politics, where traditional structures of power become less predictive and more disorderly. Philosopher David Bates, 2019, has examined entropy through the lens of cybernetics and governance, arguing that it mirrors the breakdown of control and the slow drift into systemic vulnerability. And in the realm of political ecology, recent scholarship in Ecological Economics 2023 has highlighted how entropy reflects the marginalization of sustainable logic in favor of extractive performative order. Taken together, these perspectives affirm that entropy is not only a force in physics, it is a diagnostic lens for governance. One that reveals what polite metrics conceal, the slow corrosion of meaning and mission behind institutional facades. True efficiency is not about speed or surface metrics. It is about confronting what no longer serves and having the will to clear it, and that will rarely arises from within. Some forms of waste and corrosion can only be exposed through external shock, through what we call disruption. In that context, I see America not as a system of stability, but of mobility. Its greatness is not in preserving order, but in enabling vertical movement. The ethos of this country is not built on equal outcomes, but on the right to change one's station, one's future, one's possibilities. Like the principle of putting on one's own oxygen mask before helping others, this is not selfishness, it is structural wisdom. Secure the system's vitality so it can uplift others. Moreover, progress is not a static end state, it is a delta. It is the measurable distance between where we stood and how far we've moved. In that sense, the journey is the destination. We err when we chase finality in numbers and outcomes instead of focusing on the movement that brought us there. That is what makes disruption, not as an ongoing tool but as a rare force of correction, so vital. 3. Lingering counterarguments worth holding. While I believe in the necessity of disruptive recalibration, I remain acutely aware of two enduring counterarguments that merit reflection. Collateral damage. Disruption can hurt. The vulnerable often bear the brunt when systems are overhauled. Transitions can fracture continuity, create confusion, and trigger unintended consequences. These impacts are real, and they must be anticipated with care, not dismissed in pursuit of expediency. The desire to remain human. Efficiency can become cold. People are not components in a machine. They seek meaning, dignity, and empathy. Disruption that forgets the human dimension becomes tyranny, but disruption that remembers and renews human aspiration becomes transformation with a conscience. 4. The American experiment and the imaginary IMQ measure. America's capitalist structure inherently promotes vertical mobility. Unlike any other nation, the United States has fostered a culture where individuals can rise through risk, resilience, and reinvention. Yet the wealth generated through innovation and disruption seldom trickles down proportionally. While enormous economic value is created at the top, its benefits rarely reach the broader populace in equal measure. This highlights a fundamental paradox embedded within American capitalism. Despite this inequality, the narratives that resonate most deeply with voters often revolve around pocketbook issues, immediate economic well-being, and aspirational visions for a better future. These narratives, combined with long-term policy frameworks aimed at national prosperity, reinforce the guardrails of America's unique system, preserving its identity as a land of opportunity. This paradox does not stem from individual actors alone. It is a feature of the system's original architecture. The United States remains uniquely structured to offer individuals unmatched potential for economic ascent, even as economic disparities persist and compound. What if we had a metric that could quantify a leader's real impact, transcending eras, economies, and surface-level legacies? Imagine a measure, an Influence Magnitude Quotient (IMQ), capable of capturing the true scale and depth of an individual's influence relative to their time. Would we view history differently? Would titans of industry and innovation, especially those who shaped or swayed policy, like Andrew Carnegie (1835–1919), John D. Rockefeller (1839–1937), Henry Ford (1863–1947), or Andrew Mellon (1855–1937), still stand as tall when placed side by side across centuries under this revealing spotlight? Could such a number help us decode the elusive relationship between economic power, morality, and societal progress? As a rough reflection, consider two economic giants from different eras. J.P. Morgan's IMQ, based on figures from his own time, would approximate 4.85%, derived from an estimated economic influence of $1.6 billion against a US GDP of around $33 billion in 1907. In contrast, Elon Musk's IMQ today might register around 4.3%, based on an estimated economic impact of $1.2 trillion across his ventures against a current US GDP of approximately $28 trillion. The contrasting methods of Morgan and Musk also illuminate how moral evaluations evolve. Morgan acted quietly, strategically driven by financial interests, with his moral compass largely shielded from public scrutiny. Musk, however, operates in full view, openly embracing controversy and boldly acting on convictions that he claims serve a broader vision for humanity. Whether driven by ego, idealism, or a fusion of both is difficult to determine. What can't be denied is that his actions often speak louder than his persona. Unlike Morgan's quiet consolidation of influence, Musk's visibility makes moral evaluation more complex and subjective, reflecting the paradox of modern public leadership. The louder the disruption, the harder it is to separate intention from impact. I do not claim to be an expert in this domain. I am aware that there are far more seasoned scholars and sharper minds, stalwarts and students alike, who may see further and more acutely. My intent here is not to assert, but to provoke thoughtful engagement and perhaps to offer a lens through which to explore power, disruption, and the architecture of change. If these ideas spark deeper insights or better questions, that alone would be enough. That is my humble hope. 5. A final reflection. The enigma behind. In December 2019, just before the world entered a decade-defining series of disruptions, I wrote Countdown 2030. It cautioned against the deepening undercurrents of populism-fueled authoritarianism and the rising entropy within liberal institutions. I asserted then that democratic frameworks were approaching a fatigue point, rituals replacing renewal, performance overshadowing principle, and technology accelerating faster than our ethical and governance capacities. Today, in 2025, that trajectory stands validated. What we are witnessing is not a momentary swing in political sentiment, but a larger systemic recalibration. The emergence of leader archetypes with a founder's mindset, who bypass institutional caution and invite disruption, is a direct response to unresolved inefficiencies and concealed decay. They are not anomalies, they are signals. The deeper question is, what aligns these disruptions when they exceed even the disruptor's intent? Here, we turn to thought systems that have attempted to explain the inexplicable. Einstein, with reverence for the mysterious, warned against randomness, insisting the universe follows subtle order. Spinoza defined this order as inseparable from nature itself. Carl Jung's concept of synchronicity gave language to the idea that some events are not causally linked, yet meaningfully aligned. Just as Earth's position in the Goldilocks zone makes life possible, not by design but by improbable balance, there are moments in history when entropy is met by precisely the disturbance needed to shift course. These moments are rare. They are not engineered. They occur when principled disruption is propelled by an unseen choreography, one that may not fully reveal its purpose to those enacting it. In such moments, we are reminded that even the golden principle, one who has the gold makes the rules, courage, justice, truth, may need the propulsion of mystery to fulfill its course. 6. In conclusion, I do not romanticize disruption, but I reverently accept it when systems exhaust their purpose and concealed decay overtakes genuine function. In such moments, disruption is not reckless, it is revelatory. It clears the fog, confronts what's embedded, and dares to unmask entropy for what it is, a system no longer serving life. And yet I remain cautious. Democratic systems are fragile. While disruption may be necessary to descale and reset, it can also damage the very fabric it intends to preserve. The authoritarian instinct, once awakened, is an infectious organism. It rarely knows when to stop. I don't yet have a complete answer to how democracies can protect their fragility while still inviting cleansing disruption. But I do know this. Sometimes, like a stubborn coffee machine, the system gets clogged, and the only way to clean it is to pour in the vinegar. It's not elegant, but it works.